What is up, America? This is Circus Tunes, and welcome to the circus. So, today, tonight, is just going to be a very simple video on pet peeves. We all have them. Um, so, let's just jump right into this. The very first one, the very first pet peeve that bugs me, or at least in these days, is people that make it a part of every single conversation, and they make it almost like a habit to constantly bring up that we're living in the hard times, we're living in the trying times, blah 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 blah. I understand why people say this. I do. It bugs me to death though that every single time we're having a dinner talk, this has to bleed into it somehow. Why? What do you want me to say to that? Yes? I mean, or me give you a sarcastic response? What do you want me to do? I mean, it's obvious, yeah, but why do we have to talk about it? Why do we There's nothing to say. I mean, it shows. So that bugs me. Don't know why, but it does. The next one is goals, resolutions, responsibilities, but it just being just talk. This drives me crazy. I cannot stand this because some people will ask me, "Well, what are your goals or your resolutions for 2020 or 2018?" And I always say the same thing every time. I always say, "Well, my goals are either already done or I've already taken several big steps to put myself into that goal." So it's either already achieved or it's on its way to being achieved. Either way. So that bugs me. That's a pet peeve of mine. The next one. This one's big. This one is like people talking about relationships, but there's one little thing in those talks that bugs me to death is the generalization of I've heard it from males and I've also heard it from females. Them saying, "Well, all males are like this, all females are like that." Nice. And every single time I hear this, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, or standing there thinking to myself, like, "Oh, great, okay, so this conversation is going to go nowhere." Because this is a very, very one track minded way of thinking, and there's no conversation there. You've just ruined the conversation saying that. Because now I feel obligated to ask you, okay, how do you know everybody? How do you know all females? How do you know all males? You know? So that bugs me. That's a pet peeve. The next one is perceptions of failure. Perceptions of failure. Yeah, this one probably is the biggest one out of them all. I hear this and see this all the time. Where people, I mean, there is a dark stigma around what failure is, and it usually is a excuse to or for people to hold themselves back, if you know what I mean. It's usually a tool and an excuse to hold people back, and I find this ridiculous. Do not do this to yourself. Failure means you're trying. You can't fail if you don't try. You need to appreciate the small victories in life, because if you can't appreciate the small victories, even if that is a failure, then what makes you think you're going to be able to appreciate the bigger victories later on when you become more evolved and you learn more? Appreciate the small victories. That's all I'm going to say to that. Don't be in fear of your failure. Do not. Because that will not go far. I promise you it won't go far. And I'm not the only one that's going to say this to you, to anybody. So that's some advice on that. Next one is treating corruption or bad situations as if they've never happened before. Oh my gosh, I hear this quite often. It's depressing because bullying terrorism, political corruption. It's not good. None of us like it, but it does happen. And it's ridiculous when you start hearing people say stuff along the lines of, oh, let's completely annihilate bullying and completely get rid of it. That's not going to happen. Okay? Life eats itself, it fights itself, it devises wars upon itself. That's just the way life works. It's going to do that to itself, whether if it's humans or the bacteria on our hands or just bacteria in general, viruses. They eat themselves, they fight themselves. That's, yeah, how it works. So, anyways, bad things happen and good things happen. Good and bad happens. There's nothing we can do about it, or not a whole lot we can do about it. But it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, and it doesn't mean it's never happened before. So, anywho. And then the last one is overthinking friendship. Now, this falls very close with the relationship stuff, but when I was discussing my pet peeves on relationship, I don't even know what you'd call that, relationship contents, like, for example, the way people perceive relationships, which is that, not everybody, but some people perceive relationships to be this whole thing of like, all males are this, all females are that. This falls very close to that, but not really. So overthinking friendship is a small one. It's not that big, but it's a pet peeve, definitely. Just the very small things in what you do that we tend to overlook because we do them all the time is what makes the friendships. I promise you, that's what happens. Like looking each other in the eyes when you're talking to each other, acknowledging what the other person's saying, relating to each other, which means talking about a situation that you've been through, and then the other person goes, "Oh wow, I'm not alone." Just simple stuff like that. It's not always friendships are not like even relationships. It's not always overt gift giving and compliments. Those are specialties. Those aren't supposed to be done like all the time, or at least in my personal view. It doesn't mean everyone should view it like this, but like in my personal view, it's, yeah, the small things. Looking each other in the eyes while you're talking to each other. Yeah, smiling when you're talking. Stuff like that makes friendships. I promise you it does. Like you facing your whole body towards somebody and giving them the kind of body language that says, I care. Like, and there is such thing. So that's all of my pet peeves. I hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, comment down below. What's your pet peeves? Give me the details. And I'll see you in the next video. Welcome to the circus.